Ooh, ooh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever, whenever y'all come up. Oh, goodness. Oh, it didn't. Oh, well, now it didn't. I was going to say it didn't fall on the floor. Oh, it's the 10 of Wands, so we're dropping that. Oh, love it. So I feel like last night, I feel like my heart came back a little bit. Like that compassionate side of me, that patient side of me, the side of me that had to take a back seat while we were in such a heavy transition period because it's like now's the time to be doing stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know necessarily why, but as I've already said like 10 times, I'm sure I'm supposed to be in Queen of Cups energy this month or tapping back into that energy this month. So I'm excited about that. But also, I was thinking of there's some weird stuff going on, y'all. And it ain't weird. It's just like, so hold up, because I want to make sure these are all upright. In my personal life, it's like around me in the vicinity. It's like there are people who are just like, it seems like people are ready to be at each other's throats. People, especially those who haven't confronted their own stuff or who have unresolved things from the past. It's like it's been blowing up. And it's interesting because in every instance that I've personally seen it in the realm of my extended family, it's like there's the one person who's been working on themselves, and then there's someone who hasn't. And the person who's been working on themselves is like, they know who they are and how they'd like to be better. And it's been these like confrontations. And it's interesting because what last week or the week before I had like two dreams of like people fighting or like conflict breaking out. And I'm just like, that ain't none of my business. Oh, snap. 8 of Wands with the Wheel of Fortune. I love that energy. I, I would take that. Thank you. Um, and then yesterday, so that was over the weekend. And before, well, my mom just told me about some of it. That one night where we cleared up some stuff between us that was, I guess, left unresolved. I didn't think it was unresolved, but it was unresolved on her part. And I guess we never really fully talked about it. Um, and for some reason, it was like close to the weekend or over the weekend, people were just like going ham or whatever. High Priestess with the Six of Pentacles, like that. But anyway, and so yesterday there was like this storm that was like thunder, rumbling, and it was supposed to go like all day, but it didn't. And it just got me thinking like Blue Lunar Storm is in full effect. Like if you wasn't feeling the storm before, you may be feeling it now. And it's all about purging. And it's related to the emotional body. And storms create, it's like the energy of a storm. In some ways, it blanks the slate, but in other ways, it kind of amplifies the positive because the negative or that which doesn't serve gets washed out, right? Which one of these have I shuffled and which ones have I not shuffled? I didn't shuffle these? Are you serious? I guess I didn't. So I'm thinking about a storm, right? In the eye of a storm. And storms are mobile. Storms aren't stationary or fixed. Storms keep moving. And so if you want to be at the eye of a storm, you got to keep moving, right? Because if you stop, then it's like you'll go from the eye to the storm. And so it got me thinking about the Knight of Pentacles. And so what I'm going to do is I have the Weaver Tarot for the limitation. I have the Wild Unknown for the story around it. And then I'm going to use the Witch's Tarot as the medicine, as I always do. And Hangman and the Ten of Cups. And we're going to see what's up with that night. Oh, Hangman and the Ten of Pentacles. First it was with the Ten of Cups. Now it's with the Ten of Pentacles. It's like if you can move on this, you can claim both. And we're going to pull before and after. We'll look at it. The Knight of Pentacles. Bottom of the deck is that Ten of Pentacles. Oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. So we start with the Hermit. And the Hermit card is all about going inside and finding those things that have long since been missing, and or healing those things, shedding light on those things that lie in the dark, right? It's basically within ourselves casting light on things that haven't seen the light of day for a hot minute. And since they haven't seen the light of day, I got candy corn because it's that season and I love candy corn and I didn't get any last year. And these are fresh. I went to the store with my brother last night. No, he went to the store. I was like, hey, can you give me some candy corn? And I got some water. So it isn't quite the communion I had last time with her. And honestly, it's about bringing warmth to those, right? Like, and it's like when we put blood into it, it connects it to the heart. It gets circulation. It warms up, and then it can begin to function. It comes back online, right? And I say it brings warmth because it looks pretty cold here in this card, and he's got his little lantern. I think I have night mode still on. Let me take that off. Yeah, I do. Wait, do I? Yeah, I do. Because it's distorting the colors for me. Yeah, right. And it's almost like finding this brazier and igniting it. Just like there are a few games that I've played where it's like you're going through this area that is heavily shrouded in either miasma or fog, like a fog. It's shrouded in fog, and the fog may be poisonous, so it might drain your health, right? And you have this lantern, you have a torch, you have a chalice, for lack of a better word, that projects this area of clarity. And in that area, you don't suffer from the effects of the fog or the miasma. And so, and it's interesting because I've waited years for one of these games to. I didn't even know they were going to re-release it. But me and my brother, we would talk about it all the time because I let a friend borrow the game and I never got it back. But then they decided to remaster it. And then it was like 2 years before it even came out, or like three. And it was supposed to come out at the beginning of the year, but it came out a few weeks ago. Like August 26th, I think, is when it came out, or the 27th. And it was supposed to come out in January. And in that game, it's all about like there's this miasma, that sort of flooded the land. And then you go and you collect myrrh from these crystal trees. And because it powers up and energizes the crystals, and the crystals create these bubbles where the miasma, it disperses the miasma, right? But in this other game, it's a torch and a brazier. And you take the torch to the brazier, and once you light it, then it clears out the whole area. And it's that energy here. Right? It's foggy, it's shrouded, it's cold, it's dead. And I got that feeling a while ago as well. And when I got that, it was more so related to like a specific person, not necessarily the collective as a whole. Because at that point, I guess the collective as a whole wasn't what it is now, because that was back in March. But it was this feeling of like this hermit that had a lantern that was searching in the dark, and it was about, again, it's about that person or about us finding these braziers within ourselves that can illuminate entire areas, and that can be bring clarity to a lot more than just what we can see at the edge of the lantern's light. But something like that probably lies at the heart of the darkness, so it's not easy to get to. After that hermit, we have the emperor, which is interesting because in my mind, that's all about sort of taking control of your life. Ooh, if I lay these out like this changes. This changes. Okay. So we have this hermit energy, following, navigating their darkness, finding these braziers within themselves that bring light and clarity and warmth to these, what's atrophied, to these atrophied parts of themselves, right? It's like we bring it back online, we exercise it, we move it, we flex it a little bit, we get the blood flowing, and then we can go in and start like building up muscle again, maybe, or whatever. And then we have this emperor, which is all about taking charge. Now the emperor with the hermit is an interesting energy because it's this inside out dominion instead of this outside in dominion. Right. So instead of like us looking at our external world and the status that we have in it and deriving a sense of personal self value, self worth, self esteem, whatever, with the emperor and the hermit, it's about establishing that within to attract the situation without. And so here, this is interesting because this isn't typically how the narrative of some stories go. But we have the emperor going to the hermit. And then right behind the emperor is this queen of cups. And they're both looking in the same direction, right? They're both looking at the hermit. But okay. I ended up watching the first few minutes of Queen Cup's Libra reading for August a few nights ago. And it feels like this energy. It feels like this because the queen is seeing the emperor go through this, and the queen is seeing the emperor light his braziers and expand his stuff. And now she's like, "Ooh, I want to do that too. Like, why am I not doing that? I'm the queen of cups. I'm supposed to be connected. I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be that." And it's like, well, the emperor took charge and he actually did it instead of just, I don't know, daydreaming about it. Sorry. And then we have this page of cups, which comes out after the Queen of Cups, but the Page of Cups is a beginning. And so it's a new beginning. I mean, because, one of the things that you find in there is your inner child. And I feel like inner child is kind of sort of becoming one of those things that we should probably start defining, but it's different for everybody. Like my inner child may be different than some other people's inner children because some people's inner King of Swords and the Seven of Swords. Ooh. Um, I feel like mine can be kind of serious or playful. Ooh, King of Swords and the King of Cups, though. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. First, we see that Emperor energy, and now all these kings are coming. Eight of Wands with the King of Cups. Okay, all right. But yeah, I feel like mine is a little bit more serious. Some people's are just like jokey or something. I don't know. Mine, it plays the polarity. Let's see. What's that? The Magi and the Moon. The Magician and the Moon. Instead of the Goddess of the Moon and the Magician in the Mirror. So we give this a few shuffles, then we'll see what's holding up the Knight of Pentacles. I mean, and that's why I've been so like hard on stuff and people and the collective. Because it's like to continue to avoid this is just gonna it's like naturally in the world for a lot of people, their pitfalls and their holes are naturally getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And so if we're not doing anything to actively fill those holes or to elevate ourselves out of them, then it's like it's not gonna get any easier. Or that at least that was the case in the past, right? Now it's all shifting. So we're on to a different phase of the narrative, a different part of the story. Okay. Give this a half cut. Ooh, no, let's do a three cut. Three cut, two cut, four cut. Ooh, I'll do a four. One, two. There we go. Oh, wow. With the moon at the bottom of the deck and the death card. We got the title card, the moon, and death. It's like we don't even know what we don't know. Like the title card and the moon, it's like we don't even know what we don't know. We can't even comprehend what we don't see. And well, yeah, this may be more in the past and future, past and like present. It's like we don't even know what we don't know. We can't even fathom the things that we can't see, and we're all kind of sort of in the dark right now. So if you're being guided and led to transform, just know that that's happening for a reason, and know that you'd much prefer to not know what that reason is. It's like some things in the dark are even more terrifying than we could have ever imagined. It's like you think your nightmares are bad now, you think you have fear now, and it isn't about the fear, but it's just this like you don't know what's happening in the dark around you, and you don't want to be stuck in a space when it starts to sort of fall apart, right? Because it's almost like um oh gosh, I'm trying not to cough. I had this like rose scented whatever. I was looking for some body wash that was it didn't have any sodium lauryl or sodium lauryl sulfate in it. It smells pretty good, but also sometimes floral smells trigger my allergies. And this rose is like it's hitting this nostril right here. My left nostril is fine, but this right nostril is just like I think my right eye is about to start tearing up too. But it's like that energy of like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because it's like you're in this place in the dark doing whatever you're doing, and then all of a sudden the lights come on, you see what's all around you, the authorities are there, and now you're getting sent to court to testify your side of the story, right? It's almost like when I was an RA, if there was alcohol in a room, it didn't matter if people were drinking or not. Everyone got wrote up. And there was this one person, it was his room and he wasn't even drinking, but he couldn't say no to his friends. And I'm like, wow, like if I had friends who brought the alcohol to my room when I wasn't even drinking and I got in trouble, I mean, hey, sometimes you got to stand up for yourself. But it's almost that energy, right? It isn't necessarily scary, but it's like you don't know what's happening. And so if you're being guided to move, just move. And that's what I've been doing. Sometimes I don't even know why. I'm just like, okay, if it's time to go, it's time to go. Because when the lights come on, you may not want to be there. So we're looking for the conqueror of, oh, he's right here. The conqueror of coins, the seven of swords. The seven of swords just came out at the cut with the king of swords. And then the king of pentacles is literally right here. So after that death card is the king of pentacles. So maybe not, it's like you're too invested into a situation to get out of it, or too rooted in it, even if you don't like being there. And then we have the seven of swords, the conqueror of coins, and the ruler of swords. Oh my gosh, it happened again. And then the sovereign of coins is right outside it. So outside of this window, we have the king and the queen of coins, the sovereign of coins and the ruler of coins, before and after this. And again, the king of swords and the seven of swords. I just saw the king of swords and the seven of swords at the cut in the witch's tarot. This is interesting. And we just saw the ruler of swords, I think the last time I did this. No, the time before that, when I only had one card. If y'all can even see these, hold up. If I do one at a time, sometimes it works a little better. Yeah, that ain't really, let's see. Because I do got a little bit of light over there. Let's see if I can catch it. There you go. You can kind of see it. That's the ruler of swords. We see the crown. We see the sword, the butterfly wings up top. And here's the seven of swords. Yeah. Oh, whoa. Ah, there we go. Yeah. Ooh, hoo, hoo. Look at all those threads, though, and cobwebs. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. um, but these, again, for me, this deck is all about limitation. And it's about things that we don't necessarily see. We don't necessarily see how it's affecting us, or we don't see how it could be a bad thing. Okay, we're gonna do this. The sun, the page. Oh, no, 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 not yet. The sun, the page of pentacles, and the four of cups. Keep that in mind. The sun, the page of pentacles, and the four of cups. That's about, okay. That's about, again, it's kind of sort of about bringing light and life to those areas that haven't seen it in a minute, that haven't seen it in a long time, that have atrophied, right? And I think sometimes it's hard for us to realize that certain parts of us are still alive because we haven't used them in a while. Or it's hard for us to realize that certain parts of us, like, that they still have a voice, but it's because we've drowned it out or we've forgotten what it sounds like. And I think that guidance and that clarity is always there. But what happens is our comfort and our lack of a desire, not lack of a desire, it's like our inability to face that discomfort is what gets us to not hear or mistake those voices for something else. Nine of Pentacles, Two of Wands, and the Four of Wands is what's at the bottom of the deck. This energy does not work. You can't go from the Nine of Pentacles to the Two of Wands to the Four of Wands, right? It's like, because the Nine of Pentacles into the Two of Wands, this is that, like, I don't need anybody. I'm good on my own. I'm self sufficient. I'm self sustained type of energy. And then you're progressing forward with it. And I was like, okay, that's cute. But then you come into this Four of Wands, and it's like, wait, how are you showing up to a Four of Wands situation if you're not even open to, like, it wouldn't stand. There's not enough vulnerability here. That's when it would turn like toxic over time, or it would be one of those like dynamics where there's one person who does this and then there's someone else who does something else, right? And whenever anything pops off, the one person who does this is like, I do this, I do this, I do that, blah 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 blah. Like, and it's like, well, if you so good, if you so self-sufficient, then like why are you in this? Why don't you just go be alone somewhere? Because we're not wired that way. And then they'll want somebody to put up with their garbage. They'll want somebody to put up with their toxic traits and tendencies instead of them doing it because they think that they have enough to offer to the relationship that they can be toxic AF and the other person would just have to tolerate it. Because I'm giving you this and I'm giving you that, and you won't get that anywhere else. I had a friend, he ain't always like that, but sometimes he can kind of get like that. And it's interesting because I'm the Taurus and he's the Libra. And I've heard that the shadow side of Taurus can, like, it thinks that it owns people. Like, I did this for you, I did that for you, you owe me, or you would be nothing without me, blah, blah, blah. He'll be like, I did this and I did that. And I'm like, all of that is material. And if I really wanted it, I could do it for myself. Like, I don't go to people for material things, right? That's something that Nine of Pentacles, like, you can do on your own, right? So I guess in a lighter sense, this could just be going into, well, no, that's still dark. Because on a lighter sense, this could be going into a situation, going into a partnership, going into an engagement financially stable and independent. But the pitfall of that comes when, oh, I just lost it. It's like the opposite side of before, right? It's like, because then that might lead you to just like ejecting yourself from a situation instead of growing, right? Either way, it's going to take vulnerability, right? It's not that the Nine of Pentacles is bad, but at a certain point, if you're interacting and collaborating with someone else, to get to a Ten of Pentacles requires some vulnerability. It requires some cooperation, some collaboration, some partnership. And the Nine of Pentacles is not a partnering type of energy, right? It's great, like, if you're responsible for something or someone, right? Maybe, I don't know. No, because then it's still like, I put a roof over your head, I feed you, I do this, I do that. It's like it can just get real nasty real quick, especially when stuff like this comes up, right? When the breadwinner starts feeling down, you know what they do? Why is this so nasty? Because it's like these are the things that it's like, just, it's time to release. Like I said at the beginning of the video, these pitfalls and these holes within ourselves are just naturally getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. With everything happening in the world right now, they're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And if we leave these things unresolved, It's like eventually they become these like a gravity pit or like a black hole, right? When it starts to suck other things down into it. It's like they get deep enough, now it's pulling in the earth, it's pulling in everything else. Everything is starting to crumble into these pitfalls. And we only as people have so much tolerance, right? We only have so much patience. And it seems like some folks are starting to reach the end of theirs and the ugly is starting to come out. And it's like, or you could just address this, right? Six of Cups coming out right after that Five of Cups, though. That's interesting. Let's find the Sign of Pentacles because I feel like I'm doing too much. Ooh. Oh, see, I almost missed the Son of Pentacles because the Son of Pentacles was behind the Wheel of Fortune, but it was like right behind it, and I was slapping him down fairly quickly, fairly. And I was like, wait, was that two cards? And it was two cards, and he was literally right there. And I love the moons in the sky. Opposite phases of the moon, though. One is waxing and the other is waning. And then, oh, okay. So we have the Father of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune on opposite sides. We have another king, the King of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune. Outside of this, oops, come on, come on, come on, come on. Outside of this is the Father of Wands, the King of Wands, another king. And the King of Pentacles was actually outside of this before too, the King and the Queen of Pentacles. So it's interesting that he actually came out. And the Eight of Pentacles. And this is why I was like, oh, okay. Because we just saw the Eight of Pentacles, the Son of Pentacles. And was it the Wheel of Fortune or was it something else? I don't remember. Um, when I was like, it's about keeping your nose to the grinding stone. So this is the narrative that's surrounding our situation. Honestly, you can sum it up and by saying you have to have money to get money, right? And it almost feels like, good things only come to those who are already fortunate. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And so before I really make it, I would have already had to have made it in some way. And it's like daylight in this card. And I mean, for the sun to be up top, this Wheel of Fortune would have to be in reverse. So I would just say that something about the way of thinking about that doesn't necessarily work. And like the way, like the Father of Pentacles and the Son of Pentacles, he's looking at his son, and the son is like, "This is not a great conversation." It's almost like the son is hanging his head down in shame or something. And the Father of Coins, Father of Pentacles, thinks that he's like instilling something beneficial into his son, but he really isn't. And it's something about it that's outdated with this Wheel of Fortune. It's like the time where that ruled is over. We're in another cycle now. We're in a more yin cycle. We're in a more receptive cycle, a more feminine cycle, a cycle that is going to be more led by compassion and ethics and morality rather than like that sheer capitalistic whatever makes dollars and we don't care who it negatively impacts or affects, right? Like we're cycling out of that. But I don't think you would be able to convince this father of that because his horns are what's lit up. Now, if those things were to snap, his ego would shatter. It would shatter. And again, that's that outside in worth and esteem and value instead of that inside out worth and esteem and value. Because, like, he prides himself on his ability to provide, he prides himself on the job that he has, the house, the wife, the kids, the car, the physical things. Right? This is Taurian energy. It's all about the senses. He prides himself on the things that are observable outside of him. But if he were to lose that in the Wheel of Fortune again, it's like the sun ain't up right now. If he were to lose that, you could start seeing a whole lot of ugly. Right? And remember what I said about the Nine of Pentacles and the dynamic that that would create or could create in a relationship. So if the breadwinner all of a sudden, it reminds me, there was somebody who was like, I went to school for this for so many years and I got my master's or PhD, and I'm about to go get this one job and it's my dream job, but my boyfriend told me not to take it because I would be making more money than him, and he told me that he wouldn't marry me if I made more money than him, and I don't know what to do. It's like, take your dream job and leave the man. Hello? What's the question? It reminds me of that. Because when there are, and it's almost like that's kind of sort of, I mean, it is like the old gender rolesy, the man is the provider, the man is the breadwinner, the man does this, the man does that, right? Type energy. And so many men and women and people adopt what society says that they should do and who they should be, and like the standards of beauty and the standards of wealth and success, and somehow that becomes self-esteem. But in my mind, it's like, if that comes from outside of you, how is that the self? Right? What part of that is self? That's all like external. Girl, you late. You late. One second. Jing. Oh, they got pancake emoji. Um, what was I talking about? I don't know. But again, that Nine of Pentacles. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. That's all outside of you. And if you're using anything outside of you for self worth, if these times has taught us anything, and I think that's why for some people that could be one way. For some people, why things and how things got so dark, and it could have strained relationships, and it could have done all kinds of things. And it's the receptive one who will be able to adapt to the times and to flourish, right? The moon, it also gives an energy of like a high priestess. It's just intuition and it's being guided. Because, like, this is needing to see it. And if you need to see it, you're already behind the curve, right? It's like, how enterprising, how much of an entrepreneur, of a creator, of an inventor, of a trailblazer can you be if you have to wait for things to already be done? Because if you see it, someone's already done it. And it's not that you have to be like an entrepreneur or whatever, but with this King of Pentacles type of energy, you would think, well, maybe not necessarily an entrepreneur. I take that back. But it's like if you have to wait to see it, you're already behind the curve. And there's nothing wrong with being behind the curve. But if something within you is pulling you towards the top of the wheel instead of the bottom of the wheel, you may feel that disparity between where you are and where you know you should be. And it's not to feel any kind of shame and it's not to be harsh or critical of yourself. But I mean, it's like it goes back to that hanged man energy that came out in the ramble. It was that like knowing that you want to do something. And it also came out with the page of wands and the knight of wands with the nine of swords. And it's been coming out lately. This wanting to do something, this fire and passion and desire to do it, but and you not acting on it, it creates this internal tension that ripples outward and it causes more stress and stuff. So now let's come over here and let's see. And then we'll piece this all together. So we got the sun, the page of pentacles, and the four of cups as the bottom three, with the three of swords right there. Ooh. I would say that this energy in and of itself isn't bad, but be careful of this. I feel like that's the difference between getting fit after a breakup because you want to be healthier and like getting fit after a breakup because you want to prove to somebody else what they lost. It's the difference between you putting all of this work into your life and your growth and your healing for you instead of doing it to spite someone who left your life in whatever kind of state, right? And again, that's an outside based then in type of foundation. And with that hermit, we need to and we've been given the opportunity to build our own internal foundations and to discover who we are and what we pride ourselves on, right? And that's something that I've been doing for a long time. That's why I don't really care about my appearance or like stuff or anything else like that, because it's like in my mind what I value about me is my mind, it's my heart, and other stuff, right? I don't really put any value in the physical or material within my environment or within my person, right? That's not where I prioritize my worth because that's just not how I'm aligned. And I don't feel like I have anything to show or prove to anybody, right? If you can't see it, you can't see it. But I like what I see. Anyway, but I think that's what this Three of Swords is. But also there's almost this energy of like with the Three of Swords, maybe there was something that you were lacking in the past. And so you just decide to give it to yourself. It's like I'll do it for me. I'll love me, right? I'll be there for me. I'll take care of me. I'll support me. And then once you begin to do that for you, you begin to attract others who would do the same willingly, right? When you decide to start doing it for yourself, but really doing it for you and not in spite of somebody else. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I'm gonna show that person what they're missing out on. But it's like you weren't even doing any of that while y'all were together. So right? And if that's what it took for you to start doing that, you would have never done that while you two were together. So it's kind of sort of like whatever you're trying to recreate yourself into, or however you're trying to rebrand, that person would have never missed out on it because without that breakup, you would have never done it. Without being fired, you would have never done it. So that's when we can like take things as divinely inspired to motivate us to begin to better ourselves. And sometimes it starts as, that, and then it eventually evolves into self motivated stuff. And that's fine. However, you get there, it's fine. But it's just realizing how even that can still be a pitfall, right? Because what if they still don't want you? What if they still don't want you? Then it's like, oh, I'm doing all this and I'm doing all that, and I still can't get their attention. I'm supposed to be proving to you what you're missing out on. You're supposed to be jealous. You're supposed to be kicking yourself in the butt because you let me go, but you found your own happiness. What's happening? And then you spiral. Sorry. It's not funny, but it kind of is. I can be a little chaotic sometimes because it's just like you really thought that that was going to get you somewhere. You really thought that, and it's just like, I don't know. It's like if sometimes if I don't laugh, I'll just get like, not frustrated. I don't know. It's just like, I know as humans, like we do things that don't always make sense. Right. That's why I never tried to run from my problems because I was like, running from your problems doesn't work. I'll just ignore them. I'll pretend like they're not there. I won't run. That didn't work either, of course. But I knew that it wasn't working. And I wasn't trying to delude or convince myself that it was. And so I never had a strong attachment to the illusion and the facade that I was trying to live to make up for something else. And it's like whenever you do sort of fall into those illusions, whenever you do play out those characters and those facades and those roles, it's like not only do you have to go through the pain again of whatever that separation was to heal it, but now you have to go through this additional burden of your attempt at solving it not working, or you being someone that you're not, and all of the ramifications that that comes with, right? Because what if one day you decide to take the mask off because you can't breathe with it on? But now it's like the world that you've built around this false identity, will it still stand? Right? Will the people who you've befriended, like, will they still like you? Will you even want the job that you have? Will you even like the people that you live with when you're not acting? I don't know. That's them some used questions. Patrick ain't got nothing to do with that. Oh snap! I like that. There's some really, really, really interesting runs of cards. Oh, snap! Okay. What? What? Who are you? The Knight of Swords was flipped over. The Knight of Swords was the card that we went looking for yesterday, wasn't it? Or one of the ones that we were looking for. We went looking for. It was the Knight of Swords and the Ace of Wands. Here's that Knight of Swords flipped over between the Ace of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles, behind the Ten of Pentacles, and in front of the Page of Swords. Oh well, I put the Knight down. Where's the Knight? Where did I just put that Knight? It's time to make a choice. It's time to make a decision, and it's time to cut something loose. It's time. It's a time of transition. That's what it is. We've been in this transitory phase, right? And it's like, in some way, it's like these things are like fading into and out of reality. And when they both, it's like they're sort of like blinking in and out at like different rates, right? But when they're both on, it causes a lot of tension and friction because two things can't occupy the same space. And so it's like if one of them is on and the other is off, then that's fine. But when they're both on, it's like it causes all of this friction. And that's the point. Those are the points where we need to start deciding which world we're going to live in. And we need to start putting our minds and our actions and our hearts towards getting us in that direction. Because if we don't, it's like you're going to experience a little bit of peace and then they're both going to be on again. And then they'll go off and then they'll both be on again. Right. I'd say choose the new one. Because if you don't choose the new one, it doesn't look like it's going to be great. It actually looks like it will be very not great. Because again, it's going to come to the point where you're going to be like, man, I wish I would have done something differently. I wish I would have decided to do that. I wish I wouldn't have let it be this long. And it's like, but before it was this long, before it was this deep, before it was this nasty, you already knew what you should have been like, what you should have been doing. It doesn't get more comfortable with time. It doesn't get easier as it attaches roots, as it grows roots. It doesn't get any easier. But what will happen is that eventually you'll reach the point where you're so tired of being in the dark that you just decide, you know what, F it. I'm gonna go for the light. And I'm like, and that I guess it doesn't get any easier in and of itself, but that it's like a rubber band, right? It's like a slingshot. It's like an arrow. It sucks all the way until you release it. And sometimes we do have to kind of sort of get that much tension within ourselves to really be propelled into what it is that we want. And so, like, that's one of the ways that all of our journeys are different, right? Some people, we go back and before we release the string snaps, and then we just kind of sort of fall and we get stuck there for a little bit. And then we pick ourselves up and we try again, hopefully. Right. Oof. I'm supposed to be Queen of Cups. Y'all got me. Y'all got me. I'm over here laughing and everything. Ooh, I found our Knight of Pentacles, the World card. This is about projection. This is that release. Ooh. So Six of Wands, love that. Knight of Pentacles, love that. And the Magician. Did we see this before? The Knight of Pentacles, it was with the Magician. No, it was the Knight of Swords, or was it the King of Swords? We've seen something very similar to this that had the Magician. It was the Knight of Pentacles and the Magician, I think, that came around the Knight of Swords or the King of Swords. That's what it was. And we have the King of Swords up here. Because it was like, the only way to do it is just to do it. So, I don't like this. Because we have the Hanged Man and the World. And it's almost like either you're going to do it or you're not. And that's not necessarily bad because it's true. Either you will or you won't, right? Either you will or you won't. And I think sometimes we like to kind of sort of exist in these in between states. And it's one of those times where, like, not making a decision is a decision, right? It isn't necessarily action, but it is a decision. Inaction can be an action sometimes, though. So inaction can be an action, but decision is not an action. unless you decide inaction. I don't it just always feels like you have everything within you. You know everything you need to know to begin to turn your life around. But it's like it's like at what point do we separate everything out to find ourselves? Number 1. What point do we allow ourselves to be who we are regardless of everything around us? Number 2. And then at what point do we begin to act on it? Number 3. Right? It's like discovery, acceptance, action. And with the King of Swords and the Seven of Swords, it's like you it's like we already know. And I think that's another thing that kind of sort of holds us back sometimes too, is like the things that we know but that we don't want to accept, right? I mean, if you want something new, you got to do something new. And I've been saying that for a minute. It's so interesting. I was just thinking like the other day about how in like December I switched my phone to a 24-hour clock so I could start seeing 2020 on the time. And then this year happened, right? Interesting. But it's almost that like not necessarily, but it's like if you've got nothing else to lose, why not try it the way that you'd really want to do it? It reminds me, for some reason, Aurelio Voltaire, I think I said his name right, Aurelio Voltaire started popping up and he was talking about decorating his house for Halloween and how as soon as they started putting out Halloween stuff, he started going ham on the decorations. um, but then he started popping up a little bit, and I saw this one video, and he said that he was in a really, 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 really dark place, and one of his friends was in a similar place and didn't make it. I think it was actually his girlfriend or something like that. And he was like, you know what? Before I go out for one day, I'm going to say everything that it is I want to say. And I'm going to let people have it. And he said that when he did that, he discovered how much things could change. Like how much the power of his voice and the weight of his words, how much that would dissuade those who would pick on him, bully him, whatever, from doing it. Right? He was like, then the bullies backed off after I said something. Right? He was speaking his piece to a lot of stuff. And he was like, and then he said when it came time to do whatever, he was like, you know what, today actually wasn't that bad. And he said that he's been living his life that way ever since. And it's like if all else is failing, or if nothing else is bringing you what you know is yours and what you know is for you, why not just start being you, you know? Because it's like with the magician and the Six of Wands, again, that recognition comes from the inside first. Permission comes from the inside first. And then we project that outward. And it isn't necessarily about projecting it, it's just about it's where you resonate. If that's the spot that you're resonating at, that's what people do, right? For the people who look mean AF and who got fierce RBF, it's like people, I feel like they're less likely to encounter nonsense, right? Because they're perceived as someone that you can't get one over on, right? When people perceive someone as gullible or weak, then they take advantage of them. And it's like, if you really thought that somebody was gullible, if you really thought someone was weak, why would you go in and take advantage of them? What's twisted up and knotted up and tied up within you that you would see someone like that and you would go, you know what? That looks like somebody that I can use. It's like, really? That's why, like, whenever I see people who like pounce on vulnerability because they perceive it as weakness, or they see someone as something that they can use, it just it rubs me all the way wrong. And it's just like, I don't like, I don't want to, I don't know, because that it's just so nasty to me. I don't like it. And it reminds me of Now You See It, when we find out at the end of the movie that the master was not kind. He didn't take in his apprentice out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't take in his apprentice out of wanting to see him thrive and flourish. I was going to say flourish. He took him in so that he could take advantage of him and so that he can get his power. But when you already have recognition within yourself, and when you're not looking for that validation outside of you, not only will it sort of naturally begin to filter out the people that you meet, but also it'll make it easier for you to recognize when you're being taken advantage of, and it'll make it easier for you to separate yourself from those situations when you need to. This is so interesting. I don't know what it means. Because the way I'm seeing it, it's like this knight, this Knight of Pentacles is leaving, and this Six of Wands is returning home victorious. But at the space of their meeting, it's like one becomes the other. And it's almost like this, like if you would imagine a force field, it's almost that like, oh, I don't, oh, hold up. Like I said, I don't get it. Because what would that mean? Because if we look at the Knight of Pentacles from the outside, as he's leaving, he crosses paths with the Six of Wands coming in, but they switch places. And so the Knight of Pentacles was leaving, but since he switches places with the Six of Wands, he returns before he ever leaves the force field. And the Six of Wands was returning home, but when he trades places with the Knight of Pentacles, hold up, wait. Yeah, as he trades places with the Knight of Pentacles, he's leaving again. And if this is all the self, then it becomes a point of exchange. And we're exchanging experiences for wisdom. It's like the experience is this Knight of Pentacles. The wisdom is the Six of Wands. This is, hold up. I feel like I really want to dig into this. Because what does that mean? From the outside, it looks stuck. From the outside, it looks trapped. Because whenever the Knight of Pentacles hits that force field, he's turned right back around. And whenever the Six of Wands hits that force field, he's turned back around. It's Odysseus. This is Odysseus, right? I'm pretty sure. Was it Odysseus or Aeneas? I'm pretty sure it's Odysseus. Pretty sure it was the Odyssey, where I think it was after the battle in Troy. It was supposed to like take him not even that long to make it back home. But his return trip ended up turning into like 20 years or something like that. Because every time he was like almost there or on his way back, something would happen and he'd get completely turned around. And I think Odysseus was also the one. Ooh, that's interesting. I think Odysseus was also the one who ended up in the cave with the sheep, right? That was guarded by the Cyclops. And so I think he ended up, this is the part where my mythology gets real rusty. I think he ended up shearing some of the sheep and putting the wool on himself. He blinded the Cyclops. Wait, why would he do that? Because after the Cyclops was blinded, he could only feel. He couldn't see. And that's why he made himself feel like a sheep. But when he blinded the Cyclops was like, "Ow, who did that?" And Odysseus said, "Nobody." Odysseus said, "Nobody," right? And then all the other Cyclops hear this one, like throwing a tantrum or a fit because he just got stabbed in the eye or whatever. Maybe he was stabbed. Maybe it was like smoke. I don't remember. And the other one's like, "Who did it? Who did it?" And then the Cyclops was like, "Nobody. Nobody blinded me. Nobody blinded me." That's that Eight of Swords. Like you're doing it to yourself through the power of this metaphor. It's like you've done it to yourself. And because you couldn't see something, because it felt a certain way, you reacted and you responded accordingly. Right? And people talk about wolves in sheep's clothing all the time. And since you were blinded to it, it's like you didn't even see it. But what made you blind to it, it's all of the stuff that you hold within. It's almost like since you can't see you, you can't fully see anybody else. Or since there are parts of you that you consciously refuse to see, it keeps you from seeing it in anybody else. And then there's the other person who wants to set out, who wants to go explore the world, but every time they try to leave, they're like dragged right back in. They always get turned around. There's the one who's trying to return home, and then there's the one who can't leave. Oof. This is not what I expected. I honestly thought it would just be like, hey, these are your blockages. This is something that you can work on to keep yourself in the eye of the storm. Because that's what this is all about. It's about keeping ourselves in the eye of the storm, and that storms move. Storms are not stationary. And so if you find yourself in the eye, but you don't continue to move, you'll eventually end up in the storm. And it's like, maybe we thought we were in a good position before the storm rolled in, but if we weren't going anywhere, that could have quickly went all the way south, like deep south. Talking about those gravity wells. It's like the gravity, if there were these like boulder obstacles in your life on your path. It's like the gravity has increased immensely, right? Things that were petty and small were soon exacerbated, especially if there were disputes in the home, especially earlier when things were locked down. And if you couldn't escape somebody that you had tension with, and how it could have naturally started to boil over, right? And if you never clear the air, then it's like gravity is increasing and it's like it's pulling these boulders into the ground. And that's what creates these sinkholes. But then it starts to pull everything around it inside of it as well. And it's almost like, since it's already pulling things into it, all you got to do is like throw something in there or put something in the vicinity of it if you can't throw it that will fill that void or that will cancel out that gravity because it's pulling in things anyway. I think it's really going to reach that point where it's easier to just handle it for some folks. If there's something that you've never, like, it's been plaguing you and affecting you for years, it'll get to the point where it's either A, easier to handle it, or where it's B, you can't not speak on it. And then things might get ugly depending on how you handle it, right? I'm so glad that, I mean, one day I was like, you know what? Tomorrow is not promised. So I'm going to just clear the air. I'm going to just clear the air because I don't want someone's mind to convince them that I think something that I don't think. And a lot of people are going through right now. And if there's anything that I can do to ease someone's mind when it comes to me, I'd rather do that. Like, I'd rather say for myself exactly how I feel instead of letting someone's mind wander. Now, on the other hand, there are some things that I'd rather not say because it's like, yeah, no, I'm good, actually. Um, but who knows? Maybe that'll change. I don't know. And so, yeah, I've been clearing the air. And it's so interesting. I found out that my brother is like a quadruple Pisces. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. But he has a Scorpio moon, and I feel so bad for him. I feel so bad. I knew if anyone has a Scorpio moon, it's him. And I know it. I know it because I know my brother. I know my brother. And that's a Scorpio moon all day long. But with the Pisces sun, I think he's like Pisces, Sun, rising, Mercury, and Saturn. I'm like, oh. But because he's like a later degree Pisces rising, he doesn't have like a stellium in his first house. Even though I could probably see it. But his Saturn is right there. Saturn is like on his sun. And I was like, oh, oh. And it's interesting because Saturn is on my mom's moon. It's a very, 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 very loose conjunction, but they're in the same sign, right? One of them is early. Her Saturn is early. Her moon is late. And so it doesn't always play out, but I can see how that plays out. But to have like Saturn, Capricorn, and Taurus energy, the shadow side and the Hierophant, be careful of what you attach yourself to. Whenever I see the devil and the Hierophant together, it's like, be careful of what you attach yourself to because you may have thought, and it goes back to that corrupt master apprentice relationship where the master is just there to take advantage of the apprentice, using the apprentice, and doesn't really too much care about the apprentice at all because it's a selfish master. But it's like on one side, you may think that it's an attachment for a higher purpose, but on the other side, it's like, no, no. Mm-mm. Oof, that's rough. Um, but yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh. And then to have that Scorpio moon, I was like, oh. And then my moon is in Taurus. My moon is in Taurus, like 27 degrees. His moon is in Scorpio, like 25 degrees. That's why like we get along for the most part, and especially now we get along. But sometimes growing up, and it wasn't super often, but when we would not get along, it'd just be like, oof. I mean, I also had a temper growing up, right? And then his little Scorpio moon is just holding on to everything, everything. Three of Pentacles. Oh, snap. Okay. Oh, yeah. I know. I know. Oh, I know. I know. Oh, ooh, okay. Mm. Okay, this is real interesting. All right. That's for me. This is for me. But the Three of Pentacles was the card that came out with the Six of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Um, Speaking of Saturn, it's all about building. Oh, I want to. Oh, I need to do it. I want to unprivate. First, I want to trim it, and I want to unprivate the retrograde reading that I did a long time ago, back before Venus went retrograde, just to see if anything in that resonates for you now, and to see kind of like as a like I don't know how to wrap it up or whatever. I don't know. I'll go back and watch it myself too. Um, because I did it for Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. Venus went direct a long time ago. She went retrograde in Cancer. She just entered Leo. No, she went retrograde in Gemini, and she just entered Leo. But the other ones are still retrograde, but they're about to start coming direct here fairly soon. My mind, and my brain is all over the place. I can't see. This is why I need to just like calm myself down. Um, I don't even remember what I was saying. And then, like, I did say that there was like the relationship where the master is taking advantage of the apprentice, but there are also apprentices who would like to usurp the power of their masters in some way, right? And maybe it ain't necessarily usurping, it's just like they have, it's like things within themselves that they need to work on, or that it would probably benefit them more if they worked on those things before they came into the knowledge. Because after they have the knowledge, if they hadn't worked on those things, then it can lead them to do things that they have to pay back even more than if they would have just been nasty without the knowledge, right? Because it's like now, if you act on a larger scale, if you act with more authority, right? That's the difference between like a petty crime and these like heists, right? Ooh. Bottom of the deck is the Seven of Swords. Oh my gosh, like Seven of Swords, like twinsies. But it's like it almost feels like things that we hide from ourselves. Because I'm looking at this fox, and it's like God, spirit, the universe, it knows your heart and it knows your mind. And so it can get a real good read of your intentions. And things are shifting. So that energy of taking advantage of people, and the energy, like the how that like how it thrived, And it's almost like if you want to, it's a dog eat dog world. And if you want to make it, you got to eat the smaller dogs, right? Small fish get eaten by big fish. And it's like that mentality. I don't think it's going to be supported as much going forward. So you're not going to find the success that you want. And it's like it won't be supported probably like socially and ethically and morally, but also like that mentality had its time and we're shifting to something new. And what like thoughts do become things, but it's like the things that we need right now, it's different than that. So it's not going to be as backed. It's not going to be as supported because again, it's about moving forward. And so whatever shifts us in the direction of forward movement, of evolution, of growth, of interconnectedness, that's what's going to be universally backed and guide and supported right now, right? Or at least that's my opinion. That's my perspective. I could be wrong. But we got the Eight of Pentacles, which is about mastery. Here's that master. Maybe not the master, maybe the apprentice, right? And then there's this tower moment where you like, wait, hold up, something about this ain't right. I think that spider trying to eat me. I think that spider trying to get me in his nest so it could eat me. Let me go find something that like actually benefits me with this Three of Pentacles. Second time we see the Three of Pentacles. Three of Pentacles is a card of partnership, and it's a card of tasks so monumentous that they would be extremely difficult to accomplish alone. And maybe that's also what this Eight of Pentacles on the Tower is. Like with the Eight of Pentacles, it's about because after the eight is the nine. Ugh. I need to like blow my nose, like just this nostril right here. Um, because it's almost the nine, right? And we talked about the Nine of Pentacles in the beginning, because the Nine of Pentacles, the Two of Wands, and the Four of Wands, hey, I remember it, was at the bottom of the deck, right? And so it's like maybe life humbled you a little bit. Maybe life knocked you from the Nine of Pentacles back down to the Eight of Pentacles. And maybe you're trying to get back to the nine. But then here's this tower moment. Now, the tower moment could have been what knocked you from the nine to the eight. But I think that tower, it's like you keep trying to build back to the nine and it keeps striking it right back down, right? If you were supposed to be at the nine, it wouldn't have knocked you back down to the eight because you have to engage the energy of the three to make it to the 10, right? To get 10 pentacles, it involves a certain amount of partnership and collaboration. It just does. 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups, 10 of Swords, 10 of Wands, they all involve an external element because within yourself, you can only get to a nine, right? Now, in the like the tens of Pentacles and Cups are different than the tens of Swords and Wands. The feminine tens are different than the masculine tens. Um, but again, it's like it's happening for a reason. Don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable, you know, especially with someone who like deserves it, you know. I wouldn't necessarily go for everybody or anybody, but also at the same time, if that's the lesson that you're going to learn, if you're learning a lesson of vulnerability, then you'll probably more than likely encounter people worth trusting. If your lesson is healthy boundaries and self-esteem, then you may encounter people who aren't worth trusting. So keep those in mind as you proceed forward, of course. Right? Let's try to reduce the number of extra lessons that we need to learn. I don't know if I spoke enough to this King of Swords, Seven of Swords. But I already read the King of Swords, and the King of Swords was us being so mentally fixed in our patterns and habits, in our patterns and habits, that we don't really allow any of this change to happen. And not allowing that change is what's really keeping us from everything. It's like we're taking it from ourselves, basically. Because again, it's like, you get out what you put in. And if you are, again, if things are turning around for you, if there are things that you have healed, especially, but if there are things that you're healing, and if you're growing and evolving, know that the people that you encounter and the experiences that you have will also change. And not everyone that comes into your experience is going to be the exact same as what happened before, right? And there'll come a point where you learn to see that. I feel like these are peeling up in some ways, but whenever I touch the cards, I don't feel it. It's so weird. It's so weird. I'm like, please don't, because I literally just got these. And I just told Casey how, well, that was a different deck. I was like, yeah, these are amazing. Cards peeled up. This fine. For these, I don't get a final message, but I will get a Universe Has Your Back card. Actually, we're going to go to Lord Ganesha today. We're just going to go straight to the wisdom of Lord Ganesha, because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. But yeah, it's just been so interesting these past few days what people have been getting up to. It's like, man, so that's really been bothering you this whole time and you never said nothing. But again, every time I've seen it experienced in my environment, extremely loose environment, but with people that I know personally, it's like there's one person who's exactly who they've always been, or who's been struggling, or who hasn't spoken on something mentally. And then there's another person who's bettering themselves and who's been working on themselves and who's different, right? Now, in the second scenario, case and situation, it's a good thing that the person who was doing the work did the work, because if they hadn't done the work, somebody would have been real shook. Because some people like to be a little reckless at the mouth, not knowing who they're talking to, especially if they have a little bit of liquid courage in their system. Luckily, that lion is vegan right now. That lion is transitioning their diet to something that is less meat based. So she got off the hook. I'm like, ooh, girl. People just, they really, like I said, like people see weakness, or they see vulnerability, or they see a lack of, I don't know, bravado, and they perceive that as weakness. And they think that it's something that they can conquer. And it's like, it really isn't. It really isn't. I've done so much work. I had to, because if I didn't, then my life experience would have been severely altered. Like, I almost went to juvie when I was in the fifth grade, because I had anger issues for real, and fighting is in my blood on my mother's side, on both sides. And it's like, I'm not the one that people, but again, like I'm so like, I try to be so quiet and agreeable because I know how I get, and I don't want to be like that. And I actually fight, like I'm a fighter. Um, but I couldn't be like that because that's a life that I'm not trying to live in a cell somewhere. So things had to change, right? After fifth grade, it was like, okay. But it's like people just really think they want some. They just really, and it's almost always something within their own lives that they don't have any power or control over. So they want to go outside of themselves to try to express that control. And it's like, you can go out and you can beat up other people, but at the end of the day, you still gonna go home and get beat up on. So why not seek to liberate yourself from that environment instead of perpetrating and putting more of that energy out into the universe? Because you could have had the excuse of, this is happening to me, why is this happening to me? But once you begin to play the game as well, I mean, like developmentally, we understand why things like that happen, but karmically, you reap what you sow. And if you didn't like it when it happened to you, you should know that no one else would like it when you do it to them. And it becomes all the more intentional when you do whatever you do, being intentionally nasty because you want someone else to feel lower than what you feel. That's not nice. Oof, that's very not nice. I don't know. This is weird, but it is what it is. I'm just like, ooh, girl, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And then, you get to have that moment of, you know what, I really could have went somewhere, but I didn't. I've grown so much, and that becomes a victory for you, right? Or you could give in. I don't know. Like if that's the type of ego you rocking with, and you can just be like, you know what, I'm not gonna let this slide. I'm gonna do whatever. It's like, okay. It's like when Alexis Mateo was like, act the fool, girl. Act the fool. uh okay. I need to get off of here and start doing some more work. I got almost all of my equations together. I'm so excited. I'm like going through and I'm getting all of the equations first, and then I'm just gonna start coding all of it. Ooh. Number 31, decision. And I like that because the magician came out with that Six of Wands as the medicine for the whole situation, right? And even when we go back to the Father of Pentacles and the Son of Pentacles with that Wheel of Fortune, it's like you have your father telling you one thing, you have spirit and your intuition telling you something else. Which are you going to follow? Like they say, you can't serve two masters, right? Number 31, it's a four. 31 is like three is a catalytic number and one is the beginning. It's a start. And so it's like everything is happening to propel you in this direction, like that arrow being drawn back to one, get you to start something, to go out on your own way, carve your own path, forge your own destiny, right? But if you take that victim mentality, it keeps you feeling stuck and behind and in the bind. Hopefully the string don't snap, right? It's like you got to mind the tension in the string because if the string snaps, it doesn't matter how far back you get pulled, you ain't gonna go nowhere. 44 blessing. Okay, blessings. That's not what I was looking for, but there's two fours. And 31 or 34 is a number of stability. So again, it's to provide you something new, to lead you to a new stability that's more grounded and rooted in something that's actually authentic to you. And when you're in something that's authentically to you, everything just kind of sort of naturally flows a lot more. And you can be nicer and you can be more compassionate because in that space of you, there's less internal struggle, right? There still may be some external friction, but internally, you know what's up. Makes it easier, in my opinion, but who am I? What do I know? Hold up. How did I get to 34? I'm supposed to be looking for 31. 34 is capacity. So we've seen blessings, we've seen capacity, and now we're on decision. Decision. Consider all of your options to make an informed choice. What exactly do you want in this situation? Are you satisfied with the way things are moving in your life? Ganesha is guiding you to look at your desire. No, Ganesha is guiding you to know that your desires are within your sights. Odds are in your favor. With that Wheel of Fortune, sometimes you got to go against the grain. Sometimes you got to go against the grain. The decision that is before you is either sticking with what you know or breaking out and trying something new. This is a time for veering out into a new adventure, into a new adventure, or making a decision that deviates from your typical trend or habit. Ganesha will gift you with a great understanding of who you are and what you are capable of creating. And we just saw, was it capacity? I think it was blessings, capacity, and decision, or it might have been capability. I don't remember. I already forgot. I'm trying to read over here, y'all. Let's see where I go. I want to read that part again, though. Ganesha will gift you with a greater understanding of who you are and what you are capable of creating. That's that hermit and emperor that we saw in the beginning, with the queen of cups looking at the emperor that was looking at the hermit with the page of cups. That new way of being, that new connectedness, because we're less stuck in our own mess, where we can connect more authentically because it allows us to be more vulnerable. Um, and I lost my place again. Zero in on a goal. Take the step to make the selection. You have worked hard and really evolved through your life lessons. Get ready for a change. Motivate yourself by taking time to rejuvenate. Ooh, I like that. Treat yourself to simple things that bring you joy, like candy corn if you like candy corn. Sorry, I'm going to stop. Discover new activities that take you away from routine. I said I was going to stop interrupting, but I'm actually going to touch on that because that's something that I said, I think it was yesterday. And it's something that I've been observing here lately. And it's like, I don't know if I want that. I don't think I would like that. And it's like, Patrick, you don't know what you want and you don't know what you like because you're stubborn Taurus, but you're Tauran stubbers. I can't even speak. Because you're so stubborn. I've always like too stubborn to try the things that I don't think I'll like or that I don't think I want. And there have been so many things that I've tried that I love, like bubble tea. And I know it's so simple. And it's probably very Taurus or Taurian of me to mention a food when I'm talking about being a stubborn Taurus. But like bubble tea, and I love bubble tea. Honeydew or taro. Oh my gosh, I got taro powder up there in the cabinet. It's really good, actually. It's really, really good. Um, but also other things. And it's like I wouldn't know how much of an entrepreneurial spirit that I have if I wouldn't have participated in that innovation competition. I wouldn't know how much I actually kind of sort of love creating something and marketing it. So especially something that I can get behind. Like I wouldn't have known that I'm capable of that. Leadership with my Chiron and Leo. Interestingly enough, so my Chiron, I'm sorry, my Chiron natally, my Chiron is in Leo. And so I'm naturally averse to anything that would put me in the spotlight or would put me at the center of something or bring attention to myself. And when the North Node was in Leo, and I was talking to my friend Emily, like we've been following the North Node without even realizing it. When my North Node was in Leo, I became an RA, right? So I had a floor of like 42 residents, and like I was the go to person. My floor was primarily first years, primarily freshmen, in the party dorm of all dorms, the most Leo of the freshman dorms, because it's the closest to all of the fraternities and sororities. I'm like literally first night of move-in, first night as an active RA with a few people living on my floor. And there's already a massive party. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was on the opposite side of the building on like the third floor. I go to the other side. of the building. I'm walking up the stairs. I'm seeing like lots of people coming down the stairs. And then I get on the floor and I notice that they're all coming from that room. I'm like, oh no, like y'all need to stop, go back, go back. Mm-mm. And they said that the room was still packed. Like people couldn't even sit down in the room. I'm like, and all the people I saw come out of that room? Girl. And then and then one of the RAs, he probably had the same experience. And he saw one of his residents that he literally would have just met. He was like, oh, I'm gonna go to his room. Oh, snap. Yeah, it is. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to his room and get him and bring him back. He went and brought somebody back. I was like, oh snap. Like I know I've seen my people, but he was actually pretty cool. And he took some getting used to because like I'm very much an oldest child and he was an only child. And only children, I don't want to say they're weird, but I feel like as an only child, you can be an oldest and a youngest at the same time. And typically with youngest child energy, I find a little bit of friction and tension that I'm learning to release. If you can't tell that I'm an oldest, well, I'm my mom's oldest and I'm one of my father's youngest. But I live with my mom, so I'm primarily an oldest child. I got oldest child mentality. But it is nice, like being an oldest child, but going over there and having an older sister and an older brother. It is actually kind of sort of pretty nice. Even though, anyway, I'm going all the way off track. Okay. So when the North Node was in Leo, I became an RA, which made me responsible. I was like a pretty good RA. And my resident told me that I was like a lot of people's favorite RA because whenever I approached a situation, I didn't approach it from the space of like authority to the point where I'm like overly relying on that to, you know, how people power goes to some people's heads, right? And it also helps me that I'm not only a male, that I'm also a large male, and that I'm also an African American large male, because a lot of the people are just kind of sort of naturally intimidated by me anyway, because of, you know. And so when I enter a situation, there's a lot that I don't have to do. And I was with one of the girls one time, and since she's a girl, that's one of the things that I also noticed about like I could try to generalize it to women in positions of authority, but I can only, you know, talk about what happened in my own particular experience and how like people would talk to them or how people would sort of treat them or kind of dismiss them. Like I was on rounds with one of the girls because we typically do girl guy because we go on both sides of the building, and so we have the guy for the guy side and the girl for the girl side, so you don't have like random dudes just strolling through the girl side of the building for seemingly obvious reasons, unfortunately obvious reasons, um and girls on the guy side for other reasons. This is going all the way off track, but it was so I was an RA and there was this girl on the guy's side, on my floor. Now, my floor was the closest to the dining court. So if you go to the dining court, it's the closest door to get in and out of the building. And she just walked in the building, and I'm like, do you have an escort? And she's like, no. And she just kept walking. And I was so shocked that I didn't even do anything. I'm just like, what just happened? Because she was just like, no. And I was just like, oh. Like no excuse, no lie, no hesitation, no stuttering, no stammering, just no. I was like, okay. And then so like my floor, it's like literally right next to the door to get to the lobby. Right. So she's only on the guy side for a minute at the most. right? Because it's like this door, you walk down a little bit and you get to the door to go out, right? To exit the guy's wing. And I told somebody about it because I was just like stunned and I couldn't believe it. I was so shook that I wasn't even like, okay, well, next time you need an escort, or I'm going to write you up because you ain't supposed to be doing that. And then it happened again. And I was like, do you have an escort? And she said no. And I was shook. I was shook the second time too because I'm just like, and then it never happened a third time. Because after the second time, they were like, next time at least get her ID. But in my mind, I'm like I understand it, but at the same time, it's like literally right next to the exit. Like the exit is literally right here, and then to get to the lobby, it's literally right here. So like in the space of her like walking down, like I know that like she shouldn't be doing that, but at the same time, by the time she hits my room and I see her, she already halfway out. And anyway, so there was this one girl who's like very, very, very short. And we said something to some of the dudes one oh oh, I'm not wearing my earrings. One second. One second. I'm not wearing my earrings. Um she said something to the dude and he was like, haha, you're short. And I said, what just happened? She was like, yeah, it happens all the time. I was like, girl, what? What? And so one day I was handling a situation. Usually I don't engage, like if we're on rounds enough, if I'm with someone else, usually I let them handle it, right? I was like, you want to go in? Like I'll be back up. And some people like are so ready to just use their power that they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go in there. I'm like, okay, I'll just stand back at the door. Um but one day I handled it. And I was like, how did I do? And she was like, you need to be tougher. You need to be more mean. I was like, what? I was like, no. What do I need to be mean for? Like I said, I'm already like naturally imposing. I don't need to like, and that's not who I am, right? Like we're all adults, right? I don't have to go in and talk to anybody like they're a child, right? That's not what the authority was given to me for. It's just to make sure they're following the rules and regulations of the dorm. That's it. I don't need no power trip. I'd rather, get this over with so I can go back to my room and continue to do what I was doing, which was probably not doing homework. um, but anyway, since I handled it that way, my resident was like, yeah, like people like everyone likes you because you don't like go in and like yell at us. And that's when I found out that they had a group chat for literally the whole building. And I guess I was cool enough that he told me about it. And then I'm like, I go to the other RAs. I'm like, did y'all know that there's like a hall wide group chat? And they were like, what? No. I was like, yeah. That's why sometimes the residents know stuff before we know stuff. I'm like, how'd that happen? But again, it's the most Leo of all the dorms. So of course everyone is social and interconnected. And I don't know what Leo's relationship with authority is if Leo isn't the authority. But anyway, when the North Node was in Leo, I was an RA, and then I was also a supervisor slash manager the following summer. And then I was invited to be on the inaugural Men's Leadership Series board that same summer when Leo was in, or when the North Node was in Leo. Now, the RA thing I did, the supervisor manager thing I did, the men's leadership series thing I did not do. I was the only student. I'm like, what? How am I the only student? I thought it would be a few. I didn't end up doing that. Excuse me. And then the North Node shifted into Cancer, and that's when I went through my darkest night and I started to get my spiritual life together. And now the North Node is in Gemini, right? And I'm starting to like use my voice. I'm starting to like I've always understood that there are two sides of the coin. Now it's time to do Gemini things. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. It's time to do Gemini things, even though my South Node is in Gemini. My North Node is in Sagittarius, believe it or not. Even though I've talked about it before, but yeah, that was just interesting. I don't know why I just brought that up. Why did I just bring that up? Because I love talking about myself? I don't think so, but maybe. Hold on, wait, let me see. Discover new activities. Oh yeah, yeah, because I was talking about how sometimes I don't like new things. That's why I started talking about that. But then I end up discovering that I do enjoy them. And sometimes it's more about the company than it is about the activity. And if it's really, really good company, okay, let me preface this. If it's good company and if there isn't something else that I'd rather be doing, then I'll go. And I'll enjoy it because of the people that I'm with, regardless of if I would have liked the activity or not. And that's actually how I started watching more horror films because some of the dudes, one of the dudes in particular, a few of the dudes on my floor really, really, really liked horror movies. And they were like, "Come on, Patrick, like let's watch horror." I was like, "Let's watch like Moulin Rouge, or like let's watch rom coms. Let's watch something that's gonna make us cry and like put us in our feelings." They were like, "I'm just playing." But that's when I started watching horror movies because he loved horror movies because they loved horror movies, and that's when I found out that I don't hate horror movies as much as I used to. I don't get as scared as I used to get, primarily because a lot of it happens in the dark and I can't see anything. Also because sometimes you know when the jump scare is coming, and also because when I watch them, it's like it's the company that I enjoy. And so, yeah, that's one of like horror movies, vegetables, exercise, things that I thought I'd never enjoy, but I'm actually kind of sort of coming to like a little bit more. And it's like as I've been accepting the things in me that I can't change and reworking my relationship with those things and with the world around me. And as I've been healing and growing within myself, my tastes and my experiences and my joys and the things that I enjoy have also been sort of expanding and evolving. Um, and it's just interesting how all of that kind of sort of started happening. And so, again, it's like, I guess I have to remind myself sometimes that I can't be so quick to limit myself because of what I think I won't like. So just me trying to relate. I try to be relatable sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. I don't want to say I'm not who I am because I am, but like I also know. Like I don't think I'm perfect, but I do. It's not that I try to be perfect. It's just that like if I know I can be better, or if I know I can handle something better, then I try to be that. Because again, it's like I've spent enough of my life being the most restricted version of me, being the most fearful me, the most depressed me, and it's like I don't know, I just want to explore more and more and more of who I am and who I can be, you know? And I can't do that if I'm being the old me or if I'm not pushing myself to grow and evolve and change. And it's like I like the things that I discover. Honestly, I like not being depressed. I mean, I like solving and facing. I like solving my problems and facing challenges head on and working through them. And I like learning and growing and evolving and being more comfortable in my own skin, being more comfortable with my voice, being more comfortable being expressive. I like not always needing to hide behind a fake name or a blank screen. Um, like a screen name. It's not like I'm running around with 15 different aliases. I don't know. I'm enjoying the authenticity and I'm enjoying the growth and the evolution. So yeah. Sorry to I mean, maybe some of this will benefit somebody in some way as well. I don't know, right? Also, this is my channel, and if you don't like it, you can leave. Maybe you've already left. Or maybe you're one of those people who tried to troll me the other day. I mean, they didn't try to troll, they did actually troll me. And like, look, I wasn't gonna say anything, but all of the dislikes are gone. I went back to, I don't know why I went back to see if they were still there, and the dislikes were gone. I was like, oh, what? And my mom was like, you wanted the dislikes? I was like, yeah, because I don't know. Like, if you ain't got haters, then you ain't doing nothing right. I don't know. There are so many things that I don't subscribe to. Like, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, I guess, like, I see that as a valid observation. I see it as a valid observation of what people can do when they're in the space that they're in, right? Of that crab in a barrel mentality, right? I see it, but I'm not going to include that as part of my narrative of success. I see it as a potentiality and as a possibility, but I don't see it as always connected, right? I don't see that as something that always has to happen, right? I don't know. Sometimes the way that we approach something influences what it looks like, right? And for me, there's a difference between like understanding that this is something that happens and that this is something that is happening, and choosing to make that an obligatory part of my narrative and part of my story or part of the space that I enter, right? But to each their own. Back to this. Let's try this one more time. So take the step to make, hold up, wait. Take the step to make the selection. You have worked hard and really evolved through your life lessons. Get ready for a change. Motivate yourself by taking time to rejuvenate. Treat yourself to simple things that bring you joy. Discover new activities that take you away from routine. Excuse me. As you move through your day, as you move through your day to day schedule in new ways, you create new thoughts. Oh, wait, what? Oh, when Ganesha is holding the mace called Gada, he is challenging you to be more decisive. Biology, and is the Hindu god of. Really? Okay. It said I was buffering for a second. I'm like, for real? It's been 2 hours. This was not supposed to happen. I am who I am, okay? Um, he's a god associated with overcoming obstacles, but he will also give you obstacles. Now, the obstacles that Ganesha gives you and the obstacles that he helps you overcome, that's not like ant hill or molehill obstacles, right? When the Three of Wands came out like 2 times, those like monumentous obstacles and challenges, the ones that are so big that you almost need the cooperation of someone else to surmount them and to overcome them, he can reduce mountains to the size of molehills to help it to make it easier for us to sort of overcome them ourselves, right? He could be one of the things that maybe you work more with your spirit guides and whatever you believe in more so than like actual people, maybe, or maybe that's where you start until the actual people worthy of collaboration come. But he can also make a molehill into a mountain depending on what you need and where you're going, right? And so if there's two, if what was it, oh, what is it, it's Robert Frost. It's like two paths diverge in a our two roads diverge into something, and I took the one less traveled by, something like that. Also, there was this other one that's like, whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods full up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a village. I want to look it up. I want to actually read it. I was helping my mom break that poem down a long time ago. She's like, "Oh, isn't it over?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's over now." That's why I sent the laughing emoji at the end of my text because it's already closed. Whose woods these are, I think I know. Here we go. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a village near. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening by Robert Forrest. Yes, yes, this is the one I wanted. I think it's fairly short, so I'm gonna read it really quick because it's actually popped into my mind before, but I've never wanted to read it. So, whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. And so we had to break that down. We broke it down. And when we broke it down, we gendered it. And the critique was like, you didn't have to gender it. It could have just been a partner. But it said he and his. So we just wrote in the generic she, right? But we was like, maybe his wife passed in these woods, or she has like a grave or a tombstone in the woods or something. And he's stopping here to spend time with her, right? Even though there's nothing else around it. I want to read that one more time. I want to read it one more time. I don't know. Something about that is just feeling right now. Whose woods, and I had most of it. I got a decent memory. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Let's break this down, shall we? So, woods, that relates to the forest that I talked about a long time ago, where the fog is kind of sort of rolling in, right? And it's so interesting now they have those Under Armour commercials where like there's a fog rolling in and it's trying to get you to forget who you are, right? I love that ad because I'm like, anyway, and like watching the wood fill up with snow. Snow, it covers and it blankets things, but it does it in a way where everything is white. And so it has an energy of bleaching rather than purifying, right? Because it's like it falls down and it covers the color that was there, the ground that was there. It paints it white, but it doesn't, in and of itself, cleanse or clear anything. It just smooths it over like nothing was ever there. And she's like, sorry. I'm like, I know, I could have called her, but I decided not to anyway. Um, yeah, it almost feels like the energy of bleaching because it's filling with snow. Like, if it were like, now after the snow melts, maybe the water can like wash some stuff out. But it's also interesting that we use salt to keep things from freezing. Now, chemically, we use salt to keep things from freezing because it raises the freezing point, right? Because it's less pure, right? Like pure water will freeze at 0 degrees Celsius. But if you throw some salt in there, it'll raise it. So maybe it'll freeze at like 5 degrees Celsius instead of 0 degrees, right? And that's why it'll thaw out because it's no longer because it raises the freezing point, the point at which it freezes. And that's interesting because that's us introducing something to snow to keep it from turning into ice. And ice, it encapsulates and it creates a surface where you can get no traction. Now, it reduces friction, which is amazing, but it keeps us from gaining traction. And so it makes it hard to progress, right? And that in some ways speaks to the need for difficulty and sometimes how we need those boundaries, those obstacles to really progress forward. Because if we're progressing forward with no traction, then like it's like we're not learning anything, we're not growing. It creates these slippery slopes where we just like we never gain our footing, right? And it's time for us to stop being little Bambies and start being a little bit older Bambies, right? Learn how to walk on our own 2 feet a little bit. But that's the energy of the snow. It feels like it's bleaching. It feels like it's covering up more than it's like purifying. But then you look at it and you're like, oh wow, it's so pure, untouched. And to everything there is a season. And it can be that sometimes, but it's feeling like a bleaching type of thing. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Oh, the darkest evening of the year is interesting because I've recently seen the Disology card that's like the day of longest light or night. Darkest evening of the year. I mean, that sounds like Dark Night of the Soul to me. I mean, darkest evening, dark night, huh? Between the woods and a frozen lake. Now, the frozen lake, it's iced over emotion, right? And we just talked about ice. Now, what's interesting is everything in the lake survives. And that's also let's get down. Let's Here's another chemistry lesson. Water, and I've talked about it before, but water is one of the few chemical substances that as it freezes, it gets lighter. It actually gets less dense as it freezes because like water molecules when they're liquid they can get a lot closer than they do when they start to form bonds, right? It's like they can get this close as liquid because they're slipping and sliding against each other, but when you slow them down and they start locking into formation it does this, right? It keeps them here instead of letting them get like this close or even that close, right? Because like you can get this close but you're immediately taking your hands apart anyway, but it locks them here, and since it locks them here, it's less dense and it floats on top of liquid water, right? That's why ice cubes float in a drink. And water is one of the few things, typically, when things solidify, they get heavier and denser because it's like you're packing it in. But water, it actually spreads out when it freezes. Interesting, right? And because it does that, everything below the water it stays liquid, right? So you don't have fish frozen, or you don't have these entire frozen lakes where everything is a popsicle. And so there's still stuff going on beneath the surface, but our access to it is limited. And so it's like you can't just dive into that pool, dive into that pond, dive into that lake. And it's like your ability to transfer from land to water is restricted, right? It's like either you're on the land or you're under the water, and that's the ice breaks, right? And you can be, but I mean, winter is also the only time when you can be like on top of the water, right? Walking on water in the wintertime. Even ice is water, right? Oh, yeah, I can walk on water too. Freeze a lake over. Watch me. But it's like there's something about it's like we're amphibious creatures. And so there are times when we need to get into the water and times where we need to go on land, right? We can't live our whole lives underwater and we can't live our whole lives on the land either. We can, but it's not great, right? So I guess is that between the woods and the frozen lake? Well, mm, no, because the coming of the spring card also came out. I don't know. I don't need to dissect this all the way, right? I ain't got to be super, super, super extra. But this is a hermit. Oh, this is the hermit card. This is the hermit. This is the hermit. Come through synchronicities. This is the hermit because I was like, it's frozen around the hermit and he's bringing the warmth. Then I talked about lighting the braziers. This is the hermit that we started a long time ago with, hours ago now, probably. And I think that's why this horse thinks that it's so odd, right? Because a farmhouse has some light. There's candles, there's something, but there's no light between the woods and the frozen lake. And typically, woods, like those are things, the woods, it's something that we get through. The woods isn't a destination for a lot of people. It's an obstacle on, or it could be a hazardous terrain on the path to getting to where we want to be. So the horse is like, why would we stop in the middle of the woods, number one, in the dark, on the darkest evening of the year, number two, without a farmhouse, without any light near? Like, what are you doing? Why are we just out here? What's happening? He gives his harness bells a shake, saying that it's time to move on, to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Yeah, at the end, that's when it was like, he lost his wife and he's dealing with the grief and the pain of that separation. And maybe they had a child, right? That's how we broke it down. It was like maybe he had a child that he was still responsible for, right? Let's say he went to the village to get some food or something, and it's very cold outside, so he left the child at home. But something about going through these woods, maybe they frequented the lake, maybe they loved going to the lake over the summer, maybe they loved the woods, maybe they met in the woods in some freak cart accident where they both had these horse-drawn carts, and back in this day the path through the woods was pretty narrow, and then there was like this like chitty chitty bang bang, somebody ran somebody off the road, and then they end up getting married by the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, sorry. It's old, okay, even though I literally just saw it like this year. um and they didn't get married. It is what it is. um but maybe they met here. And so there's the pain of the separation. And again, with this blanketing of the snow, it's like there are these feelings and these heavy emotions and this grief that he never really processed through. But the snow is falling down to cover it up so that he can continue to do what it is that he needs to do, because he can't afford to leave yet. He still has promises to keep and miles to go before he sleeps, right? And I think that was the energy for a long time of us just like covering up and covering up and covering up these things that we really need to address within us. And the spring is coming. That frozen lake is about to thaw out and that snow is about to melt. And everything that lies beneath the snow, it's about to come back to the light. And maybe you thought it was healed, right? Maybe you thought it was purified. But it's like, no, you just covered it up and you blanketed it. And the sun is coming to illuminate the darkest night, because it can't be dark forever. The sun has to rise at some point and the snow will melt. And the lake will thaw. And hopefully you didn't build a home on a frozen lake. because when the spring comes, yeah. Let's finish reading Decision. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever like gone on this many tangents. But anyway, continuing. Now I gotta readjust my eye. Excuse me. Once you start being more strong minded, you will create the opportunity to reflect on your longer term goals and desires. You'll then be in a better position to plan ahead and ensure you achieve those goals. You benefit now from a newfound sense of confidence and are ready for a major change. You might consider travel to exotic places, further education, or a major career change at this point. All of the above, besides more education. Travel, definitely. Major career change, definitely. I started looking at some jobs yesterday. That's all I'll say about that. Let's see. Where did I end up? We almost done, y'all. I'm almost done. This will expand your learning and development and grow your horizons beyond your immediate environment. With careful planning and a moderated approach, you will set yourself up for success now and moving towards the future. I love that. And I feel like we kind of sort of get a little bit of that Son of Pentacles, Father of Pentacles, Wheel of Fortune in that as well, right? Oop, let me turn this back up, right? Oh, I said I was going to get a, no, yeah, I ended up getting this. I was like, I'm going to get a Universe Has Your Back card. I was like, no, we need Lord Ganesha for this. So here's another multi-hour video about something. I don't even know what I'm going to title this. It may just be 9-8. Shoot. So yeah, that's all I got. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better. To continue to grow and expand and change and evolve. Things have been kind of dark and cold lately, but after dark and cold, we get a spring. But again, you want to make sure you haven't built a house on a frozen lake if the spring is coming because it's gonna thaw. Unless y'all's like Atlanteans or mermaid people or something like that, and y'all can breathe underwater, then you might be all right. Right? Maybe you'll be going into an underwater cycle. Right? I'm in my Atlantean cycle right now, so developing gills, learning how to breathe underwater, just cute things like that. Um, but also, I guess there is an energy of like not getting stuck in the woods. It's about remembering the miles that you still have to go and the promises that you still have to keep, right? And it may not even be promises to yourself. It may not even be promises to other people. It could be promises to yourself, right? So I may actually come back live a little bit later because I think I have a special little surprise coming in the mail today. So, and I was gonna wait until that came in, but I got a little bit impatient because I do want to start working on the things that I need to work on because it's that time to do things. So, again, I already signed off, and I'll catch y'all later.